Welcome to the Ricky Mathews Show. I hope you're having a wonderful Friday morning as the week's been an interesting week because on one side, we've had the celebration of cruising the coast and hitting a new record and the economic impact that had and the celebration that was for so many, in spite of the fact that, traffic's always an issue. But one of the things that I mentioned to my friend Rob Siegler is that when Ann and I went to church last Sunday, we couldn't find any litter. We have all these people on the coast, 10,000 cars registered and all these other cars that didn't register and all these people in coastal Mississippi. And I could not find any litter anywhere. It was truly remarkable. And the reality is that we have to deal with traffic, and that's just part of the deal when you something like cruising the coast. But, cruising the coast ought to be held up as an example, a single promoter with incredible coordination to the 12 cities that were involved and the 3 counties that were involved, and people who came to participate that had tremendous respect for our community, and they left it better than they found it, and we should celebrate that. The other thing is George Schlegel. We celebrated his amazing life. I called him many times over the past 3 years since I started the show, a stalwart leader in coastal Mississippi, and literally an icon. And if you haven't seen the tribute we did to him, you can go to the SuperTalk Gulf Coast Facebook page, the SuperTalk Mississippi YouTube page, or the Ricky Mathews Show Facebook page, and watch the incredible tribute we did from a long list of community leaders. And then Governor Haley Barbour joined me at the end. That, as I said, kind of put a nice bow on it. What a terrific leader George was, and he will be missed. That is for sure. Now let's shift gears and move over to my friend Jeff Duncan with NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. Someone I really enjoy visiting with this week. Saints won last week. We're going to talk about that in just a second and what the impact that may have on the Houston game. But before we go any further, man, let me first of all say good morning to you, Jeff. How you doing, my friend?
Morning, Ricky. Yeah, that win doesn't quite describe what the Saints did to the Patriots this weekend. It was a beatdown, but everything's good now back in Saints land after that win.
Hey, listen, I want to talk about the win, but, man, I just want to celebrate for a second you and Steve Gleason. I saw that Team Gleason posted that and also we actually get to see the cover of the book for the first time, A Life Impossible, Living with ALS, Finding Peace and Wisdom with a Fragile Existence, Steve Gleason with Jeff Duncan. You got to be thrilled that this book is finally out so people can pre-order it.
Yeah, look, I've never given birth, but it felt like it yesterday a little bit because we had a chance to finally reveal what the book's about and what the cover is going to look like, and you can pre-order it now. So it's exciting. We're already getting a lot of sales online. So if you're interested in the book, I know we've talked about it a lot here on the podcast. You can go to Amazon.com, really anywhere online, and order the book now. It'll come out next April, but it really is important if you're interested in the book to order it now because it helps booksellers and bookstores determine the interest level in the book. And so that's always a good boost for us if you're interested in it. But I promise you, I know I'm biased, but it's an extraordinary read, and it's not about football. It's not about ALS. It's a book about life, and I think it'll be profoundly impactful for you.
Yeah, and Jeff, I've enjoyed over the past 3 years sharing with this audience, the radio audience, the Facebook and YouTube and podcast audiences, the journey that you've been on with Steve. And from the moment I was in the Superdome, when the Superdome reopened, and I sat there with my friends watching that incredible game with Atlanta and that record kick block, and then the very special halftime show. So in that moment, we all learned who Steve Gleason was. And then from that point to where we are today, we've followed his journey. We have felt for him. We've been inspired by him. And as you said, and as you've said 1,000 times on this show, it is not a book about ALS. It is a book about overcoming adversity and finding peace in life. And you said many times it changed you.
Yeah, and I tell you, there's a roller coaster ride that you go through in the book. I mean, Steve's very transparent with the challenges of living with ALS and the highs and lows that come with that. And really, that's a lesson for everyone and how to deal with adversity and how to overcome it. And I know those sound like cliches, but when you read what Steve is willing to share, the real lows of this disease and how unvarnished and raw he's willing to share some of the experiences, I think you'll come across with even greater appreciation for what he's going through, and he and his family. And yet he still has this incredible outlook on life. It really does set perspective for all of us. We all have issues and problems in our lives to deal with and overcome. But compared to what he's going through on a daily basis, sometimes an hourly basis, it kind of pales in comparison. It really does kind of give you perspective on what's important in life.
Hey, listen, I posted this as a fact that this was something Yellowstone, the show, they posted this, and I thought, wow, that's very applicable to life. It's applicable to the story that you helped Steve Gleason capture. And here's what the quote said. And once the storm is over, you won't remember how you made it through, how you managed to survive. You won't even be sure whether the storm is really over. But one thing is certain, when you come out of the storm, you won't be the same person who walked in. That's what the storm's all about. Steve learned to live with the storm, didn't he?
Yes, and still is. And, that's a really great quote, by the way. And, I think everyone, and I try to explain this to people, it's not just a sad story either. I mean, Steve's a very funny person. And that's one of the endearing parts of the book and his life is he and Michelle are willing to make fun of everything and enjoy life and the struggles. And there's a lot of dark humor in there, but it's their personalities. So you'll find yourself laughing out loud at some of the stuff that happens. It's not just some tearjerker, very serious book. There's a lot of that in there, but there's also just a lot of fun, heartwarming stories, them with their children, and just being a normal family are trying as best they can despite these circumstances.
Listen, I posted a screenshot of the Team Gleason post. What I'll do instead, though, I actually will repost the post so that you can have access to how to do a pre-order of the book. But I would encourage you to pre-order. I intend to place my pre-order today so that I can at least be in that number. Anyway, anything else you want to say about the book, Steve? Steve, listen to me. Jeff, before we move on?
No. Just hopefully down the road, it comes out in April. Hopefully down the road, we'll have some kind of signing over in the Gulf Coast area. I know that's on the agenda. We'll have to get more details later on so you get a chance to interact with Steve and Michelle in person on down the road. But in the meantime, very exciting.
When you get ready to do that, make a very serious mental note of this. I'll engage my team at SuperTalk, and we'll find a way to bring tremendous focus to it, not just with this show, but beyond this show. And we'll be a sponsor, whatever we need to do to bring tremendous focus to when that's going to take place. So just let me know, and I'll give you the full power of SuperTalk behind that effort.
Will do, and I truly appreciate that, Ricky.
You're very welcome. You deserved it, man. You've come on this show for over 3 years with nothing expected in return, and we appreciate that. I love the fact that you understand that it's important to the Saints, it's important to NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune to look at the region as you're not just speaking to people in New Orleans or Louisiana, you're speaking to a region, and that's guided you through this, not the least of which obviously is our friendship, but we really appreciate that.
Yeah. So I was just going to say, we've talked about it before, but I just saw something on social media this week about the fastest growing areas of the country. And of course, this entire Gulf Coast is one of those areas. And I think it's going to continue that way. It's certainly something we should all be proud of. And I think and continue to invest in because I think it's dynamic right now.
It really is, man. There's no doubt about it. Listen, it was a beatdown in New England. It was the perfect game against a team that had their backs against the wall, the same as we had our backs against the wall. And we honestly didn't know going into this game how it was going to play out. Were the Saints going to take another step down and New England sort of come out of the doldrums, or was it going to be the other way around? And the Saints put it all together. And they showed us, as you wrote, the kind of team we wanted them to be. So we learned a lot about the team. And now the question is, can they sustain that?
Right. That's 100% where my mind is this week is, okay, we've seen when they put it all together what it looks like. Can they continue to put it all together? That's the challenge. I think they responded well to the challenge from the coaching staff and some of the leaders on the team. I wrote about, Mike Thomas challenging some of the players. I think Alvin Kamara did as well. And that's a very good sign, too. We're starting to see some guys that have not been real vocal leaders in the past, Mike Thomas and Alvin Kamara in particular, stepping into those roles this year. And I think it's been very important. And the response we saw from that was really encouraging.
Hey, listen, when we come back, actually, we're going to talk a lot about that. The way the team's coming together and the way the leaders are emerging on this team to say we have to strive to a level of excellence. We have to practice the way that we're going to play. You keep hearing that over and over again. What a great sub-story to this season. Hopefully they can turn the corner as a result of it because they've got the talent. We'll see you after this break. Welcome back to the Ricky Mathews Show. I have my friend Jeff Duncan from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. And where we went to the break, we were talking about team, that there are leaders emerging on the Saints team. It remains to be seen. Certainly it played out in New England. It remains to be seen whether they can sustain the impact of that leadership, the impact of the talent that they have. But, Jeff, I'm reminded that you go through steps as a team. You got to form, you're going to storm, and then eventually you're going to norm, and then you're going to perform. And so, the team had to go through those stages. I mean, you just don't put a team together with all these new faces and a new quarterback and all these things and expect them to overperform right off the bat. It's a process, isn't it?
Yeah, and look, we mentioned Mike Thomas and Alvin Kamara. Those are good examples. Those guys, when they came into the league and came to the Saints, were kind of they were following the lead of leaders like Drew Brees and Zach Strief and some of the veterans. So they were kind of followers, even though they were tremendous talents. They weren't setting the tone in the locker room or on the practice field. That was being done by some of the veterans. And then there was this kind of transition that the team went through. And I think what we're seeing is, and I talked to Mike Thomas about this last week, we're seeing he understands. I mean, he's getting ready to turn 31. I mean, he knows the clock's ticking on his career, and he has to step forward. It's incumbent upon him and for Alvin Kamara that's who the younger players are looking at, those guys, and they just had never been in those roles before. So I think it's encouraging to see them doing that, and it goes beyond just the fiery speech. I mean, the way they practice. The way that they are, I see it all the time in practice. They're talking to younger players, pulling them aside, showing them how to be a pro and how it's done in the New Orleans Saints organization. So that's a very different step that we haven't seen in the past from those two guys in particular.
Hey, listen, watch Alvin. I mean, I'm telling you, but I'm not saying this to you. I'm saying this to the listeners. But watch Alvin Kamara after the game the other day. First of all, we always knew this, and you've said this many, many times. He's philosophical. He's well-read. He's intelligent as hell. He has emotional intelligence. The issue that happened in Las Vegas was a big-time one-off for him. It was not typical of him. But when he came into the league, he was, trying to find himself, and he was kind of, underspoken. And now that he's maturing, you're beginning to see him lead. But the way he talked about, the people who maybe should have gotten a catch and didn't, he said, "You owe me one." And the people who got penalties, and he literally just remembered all these. Okay, you owe me one. You owe me one. He remembered all these people. But the way he's challenging them, not in a way that's criticizing them, but in a way that's trying to lift them up. Man, that is leadership in action.
Yeah, and I think even more of that, beyond that, I think it's challenging the players on the team to have focus and intensity during the week of practice. I mean, that's really what happened last week. You could sense it. I knew the Saints were going to play well in that game. I didn't know. I had no idea what they were getting into with New England, but I could sense, talking to the players, that they had a real intensity to their practices, to their preparation for the game, and it paid off. I mean, the attention to detail certainly showed in how they handled some of the exotic looks from the Patriots defense. And then defensively, they just completely dominated New England. And so that's the challenge now. Can you, with human nature being what it is, Ricky, right? It's inevitable you have a letdown to some degree after you have a big performance like that. Can you maintain that level of focus and intensity, not just on Sunday, but throughout the week, so you're prepared on Sunday? And I think that's where we're at with this team. We know they've got the talent. Now, can they handle the intangible aspects that are needed?
I thought your partner in crime over there at NOLA.com and Times-Picayune, Luke Johnson, captured what you're talking about really well within the context of the offensive line and what Eric McCoy had to say. It wasn't, what their challenges in the first three games were not any one person. It was, one or two missed one-on-ones and so on. What I thought was interesting, the way he described how, literally an inch in the wrong direction and you lose your ability to do whatever. I mean, it's such a precise game, but we spent a lot of money. We spent tens of millions of dollars on this offensive line. And you can tell that when they are, the way that he talked about it, when they're intense in practice, when they're focused in practice, they carry that intensity into the game, and they just weren't there prior to the other games. That was pretty well stated on Eric McCoy's part, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a really good story. And look, I've said this all along, Ricky. I mean, everyone's caught up in what's wrong with the offense. Schematically, Pete Carmichael, the X's and O's, do they do enough motion, all this stuff. None of that stuff matters. What matters is, do they play well along the offensive line, and does Derek Carr play well at quarterback? And you see what happens when those two units or parts of the offense perform. It doesn't matter if they use motion or not. And that's just so overrated right now. And we saw the line played well, Derek Carr played well, and we saw their best. They finally got over 30 points, Ricky. It'd been over almost a year.
Hey, so what's the story on Trevor Penning in practice this week?
Well, look, I think he's going to end up being the left tackle, but they're trying to get James Hurst some work there, I believe, because Brad Ramczyk wasn't at practice the other day. Andres Pete is out, and Landon Young is out. So I think they're cross-training James Hurst there in case something were to happen, which is smart planning.
Yeah. So Penning has played better. I think the story on him for the New England game is that what is usually his staple, blocking for the run, he didn't perform as well. Is that what I'm hearing?
Right. And look, he's been up and down, and I think it's going to continue to be that way all along, that, he's a work in progress. And in the end, he may end up being a guard. We've talked about that before. It's happened to many tackles that come into this league that can't play out on the perimeter against these incredible athletes. But we'll find that out. He's certainly got the athletic ability to be a starting player in this NFL. And I'm not saying that this is happening right now, but we'll see as this season progresses.
Dude, I love watching Michael Thomas be so focused. Man, he's healthy. He's violent in the way he catches the ball, and he's the kind of leader you want on this team.
Well, he gives them something they haven't had, and that is that guy to make the tough contested catch over the middle, short yardage, 3rd and 5. He's the go-to guy. That's not Chris Olave or Rashid Shaheed. They're the little road runners on the perimeter. So they've needed this kind of receiver, and certainly that's what he's providing to the offense. What happens now, Ricky, is when defenses play the Saints, they have to decide, are we going to play man-to-man? And if we do that, that's when they go to Olave and Shaheed with their speed. And if they play zone, Mike Thomas is just a master just finding those little openings over the middle. He's got the big body and frame, the great hands to catch it and absorb the hits. And look, he's enduring some big-time hits, man. He got laid out against the Patriots, but it's also a contract year for him. He is willing to do it right now. I think that's important to know. I mean, he understands this is a big year for him off the field as well. And so he's totally bought in. He knows that if he wants to sign another big-time contract, he's got to have his nose clean off the field and on the field as well.
It is incredible to watch how all this is going to play out. If the offensive line continues to play better, you talked about how it creates a quandary for the defense to cover the receivers that we've got and the backs coming out of the backfield. But then if you can get the tight ends into the game, which Carr has shown he's really good at, if we can just get them in the game and not having to hold them back so they can help the offensive line, that really changes everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, and look, it's a big game this week because they're going to get a different kind of opponent. Houston is got a young team, a young head coach, first-year head coach. They're all in, man. You're going to get their best effort. They're not as talented as the Saints, but they're going to be dialed in. I mean, the Patriots look like a team, frankly, that had checked out. I mean, that was awful, Ricky. It was really hard to evaluate how good the Saints were because the Patriots were so bad. And I don't think I ever would think I would say that about a Patriots team under Bill Belichick, but I don't know how many games they're going to win the rest of the year. And so I think this will be a much better gauge. The Saints should win this game. They're better than the Texans, but they've got to bring it. They can't go in and take halfway. I mean, it's got to be a full effort because you know you're going to get an A game from Houston with this young quarterback who's playing so well.
And this is the defense that has been playing top 10 in every category. The pressure they put on this young quarterback and our incredible defensive backfield, they're going to get tested with some really good receivers. So this is, if the defense continues to play well, even against this little onslaught they're about to get, it really bodes well for the future, doesn't it?
Yeah, look, my column this weekend's about this defense. And right now, Ricky, they're playing at an elite level against the pass. Like we've not seen this kind of pass defense in a long time in the NFL. They're leading the league in opposing passer rating. It's just been extraordinary how well they're playing. Now, they're not playing the Patrick Mahomeses, Justin Herberts, so that's helped. But when they get against a Mac Jones or a young quarterback like that, they really suffocate them.
It's so good. I just wish we didn't play Tampa with a hurt quarterback. I think the outcome would be different. Hey, listen, when we come back, we'll continue our conversation. Jeff, thank you very much. I appreciate you, my friend.
Yeah, anytime, Ricky. Thank you.
You bet. And look what Kyle did to kind of close the show. Life Impossible, Steve Gleason with Jeff Duncan. Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate you doing that. Have a good weekend, my friend.